She heard the hooves before she saw him. She always did. The convent was silent in April. Cold stone, the smell of burned wax from the night before, the particular stillness that comes only before a bell rings. She was kneeling at the bench in her cell, hands folded, back to the window. She did not turn. She knew the rhythm of those hooves, had known it for 11 years, the specific pace, the slight hesitation before the gate. That horse had a small reluctance about stopping, and she had memorized it the way she had memorized certain psalms, without trying, without wanting to. She stayed kneeling long enough that anyone watching would have believed she was praying, only she knew she was counting. Her father smelled of warm wax and wine the night he told her. She was 19. The room was lit by a single candle, his preference, not hers, and the papers on his desk carried the red seal of a foreign house she did not recognize. He did not look at her while he spoke. He explained the arrangement the way he would explain a trade route, without apology, with a kind of satisfaction that came from a problem solved. She did not cry. She had learned by then that crying in that room changed nothing. She asked for paper and ink. He thought she wanted to write to her mother. She let him think that. She wrote the request for convent admission that night, sealed it herself, and handed it to the courier before dawn. Her father found out 3 days later. By then the letter had already traveled further than his anger could reach. She had not chosen the convent to escape him. She needed him to believe that, needed everyone to believe it, because the alternative was more complicated. The truth was simpler and harder. She had chosen it because it was the only decision in her life that had been entirely hers. He came for the first time 3 months after she took her vows. She was told there was a rider at the gate, a foreign prince requesting an audience. She could have sent the portress. She went herself. The gate was iron, cast thick, and the gap between the bars was narrow enough that she could see him, but he could not step through. He was younger than she expected, or perhaps she had imagined him older to make the refusal easier. He stood with his horse behind him and his hat in his hands. He did not plead. He laid out his case with the same economy her father had used, but without the satisfaction. He wanted her to come home. He believed the arrangement still stood. He had spoken with her father. She listened to all of it. Then she told him no. He asked why. She told him she would explain next year if he returned. She did not know, walking back across the courtyard, why she had said that. She told herself it was mercy. She told herself it was clarity delayed, not cruelty extended. But her hands, she noticed her hands when she reached her cell. Her hands had not stopped moving, one thumb pressing into the other palm, over and over the whole walk back. He returned the following spring, and the spring after that. Each time she went to the gate herself. Each time she gave him a reason. The reasons were true, all of them true. She was careful about that. But they were also chosen, the way a woman chooses which true things to say and which true things to keep. The 3rd year, she told him she had found a peace here she had not known was possible. The 5th year, she told him that the vow was not a wall, but a door, and she had walked through it deliberately. The 7th year, she told him that the life he was offering her would have required her to disappear into it, and she had seen enough of that in her mother's face to know she could not survive it. He listened to each reason with the same attention. He never argued. He never wept. He arrived in spring, stood at the gate, and listened. And this, she realized by the 4th or 5th year, was its own kind of persistence, the kind that didn't announce itself. The 8th year, he didn't ask her to leave. He asked her if she was happy. She said yes, before she understood she was going to say it. She lay awake that night in her cell, on her side, looking at the wall. There was a crack in the plaster she had never noticed before, thin, branching, shaped like something between a river and a root. The candle was out. The moonlight through the slit of window reached just far enough to show her the crack and nothing else. She was happy. That was the problem. The 15th year, he brought a letter. He held it through the bars. She took it. The paper was heavier than the documents she handled in the scriptorium. She felt that before she saw it, a different weight in her fingers. He said nothing about its contents. He only said he would like her to read it when she was ready. She carried it back across the courtyard. She passed the chapel. She passed the door to the scriptorium. She walked to the nave, where the candles burned in 2 rows before the altar, and she stood there for a long time with the letter in both hands. She did not open it. She found a loose stone in the base of the altar wall. She had known about it for years, a cold gap just wide enough for a folded page. And she put the letter inside. She told herself she would burn it later. That night, the Mother Superior passed her in the corridor and asked if she was well. She said yes, and walking away, she counted 2 yeses that were true and 2 that were not. She had lost track of which was which. The 17th year, spring came, and the gate stayed quiet. She noticed on the 3rd day, told herself the roads were bad. On the 7th day, she told herself illness or affairs of state, the usual interruptions that collect around men with power. On the 14th day, she stopped explaining it to herself and waited. She went to the gate every morning, not to look. She would not let herself look. She went to do the small tasks that took her near the gate, checking the latch, speaking with the portress, nothing that announced itself as waiting. 3 weeks passed. On the 22nd day, she walked to the nave, took the letter from the stone, and opened it. The wax had dried to nothing. The paper unfolded stiff, as though it had decided to stay that way. She read it twice. It was not a declaration. It contained no plea, no argument, nothing she had braced herself to refuse. It was a single question, written in a careful hand. If you had said yes, even once, what do you think would have happened? She stood with the letter for a long time. The candles threw light and shadow in slow alternation. The question was not cruel, it was curious, the kind of question a person asks when they have stopped hoping for a particular answer and started wanting the truth instead. She did not know. She had never let herself know. And the not knowing, she understood this now, standing with the letter going soft in her hands from the warmth of them. The not knowing had been her choice. Not the vow, not the gate, not the 22 years of spring meetings and careful reasons. The not knowing was what she had protected, because if she knew, she would have to decide whether she regretted it, and she had not been willing to do that. He came back the following spring, the 22nd year. She heard the hooves, and this time she turned from the window. She crossed the courtyard without counting anything. The iron of the gate was cold, April still cold in the morning, the frost not fully gone from the ground, but when she set her palm against the bar, it was less cold than she expected. As though the metal had been holding a little warmth she hadn't given it credit for. He was older. So was she. He still held his hat in his hands. She told him no. He nodded, as he always had. But then she said something she had not said in 22 years of saying no. She told him what she had protected, not the vow, not the peace, not the life she had built here, stone by stone. She had told him all of those things, and they were true, and they were not the whole truth. She told him she had protected the not knowing. She had kept it deliberately, the way you keep a door closed, not because you are afraid of what is behind it, but because the closed door itself is the thing you need. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "That is the most honest thing you have ever told me." She watched him right away. The sound of the hooves faded, the way sounds fade in open country, gradually, then completely, with a moment between where you are not sure if you can still hear it or only remember hearing it. She went to the nave. She took the letter from the stone. She held it over the candle flame until it caught, slowly at first, then all at once. She did not do it to forget him. She did not do it to close something. She did it because the letter had always been hers. The question in it had always been hers. And now that she had answered it, not to him, not in words he could carry away, but to herself, in the cold of an April morning, with her palm still warm from the iron gate, she no longer needed it kept somewhere outside herself. She held the burning page until the last moment, then set it in the stone bowl at the altar's base, and watched it finish. The smoke rose the way smoke always rises in a chapel, slowly, as if it has somewhere else to be, but is in no hurry to get there. She was not free. She had always been free. She just hadn't known it was allowed to feel like this,